in my chapter in The Thrill of the Chaste, on my journey home to Rome, I tell about one other thing that I'd like to share with you in these last 5 minutes before we go into questions. I tell about the most meaningful thing to me in my spiritual life that happened since I became a Catholic, which is that I found meaning in my suffering. Some of that I've shared with you already in speaking about divine providence and how I can be thankful now, not to think that, that the suffering was good, because suffering is never good, but thankful that God created, that God made through my suffering something even more beautiful than would have been in me, in my personality, had I not suffered, because he gave me an empathy with people who are hurting and the ability to reach out to them that I wouldn't have had. Well, the spiritual experience that I relate to this and that I tell about in the new edition of The Thrill of the Chaste is that I was on a retreat, not far from here actually, at a retreat house in Ann Arbor, Michigan in 2010 under the direction of Father Dennis Brown, OMV. It was an Ignatian 8-day exercises. And one thing I really hoped to get out of this retreat was some sense of freedom from my painful memories. Because even though I knew that anything that I experience now as a Catholic, I could offer up in union with Jesus in his passion, death, and resurrection, I knew that any present suffering would have meaning. I was having real trouble finding meaning in the suffering from before I was Catholic, before I was even Christian. And for any of you who have suffered past pain, you know that the trauma of the past remains with us. And this is true no matter how surrendered we are. Some people say, oh, if you're just surrendered, then you never feel anxiety or flashbacks or effects of PTSD. Fiddlesticks, balderdash, because it says right in the catechism that baptism does not divinize our flesh. And PTSD is an enfleshed disorder. So just like we have to fight concupiscence, we may have to fight physical effects of PTSD until we die, but they won't always sting the way that they sting now. That's what I learned on this retreat. And I learned it during the part of the exercises when we're, the retreatant is supposed to meditate on the mysteries of the Passion. And so, in the back of my mind, I was thinking about my own passion, but I was really trying to keep the focus on Christ, which I think is very important when we're trying to work these things out through prayer, to not get focused on digging up every memory, but to find ourselves in Christ's experience. And as I was praying, I had this image come to mind. I'm not going to call it a St. Teresa of Avila-like, vision, but it was an imaginative image where I was praying before the tabernacle, and I saw the Eucharist in the tabernacle as though it were at the center of a kind of bicycle wheel of light, where there were these rays of light like spokes going out from the Eucharist, going out to all the world and taking up everyone and everything in its embrace and bringing everyone and everything back to the center, back to the Eucharist. And as I meditated on that and asked God what that meant, I realized that one of the things that Aquinas, you can tell I've studied under Dominicans, that Aquinas says about God is that God can't change the past because he works through history. He's the Lord of the past, present, and future. And what God did was something better than changing my past. God changed me by making me one with him as his beloved daughter in Christ. And so, the past doesn't exist anymore. It really happened, but it only exists in so much as that it has made the present what it is, and it's made me, in some sense, who I am. And so I realized that when I unite my own wounded heart in the present moment with the wounded and glorified heart of Jesus, who is really present for me in the Eucharist, when I do that in the present moment, his wounds heal mine. The rays of healing from the Eucharist enter into all the dark places of my heart, of my mind, of my body, including anything that I've forgotten that's still embodied in some way. Union with Jesus makes all of the things of my past his past. It's no longer just my past. It's his past, and I can locate my own wounds in his wounds, which are now glorified, and I can now live with him in the resurrection. And over time, when these past memories come up, I can offer him these memories, and it gives me something more to give him for my own salvation and for the salvation of souls.